you ready?
Yes.
Okay, we'll follow me in the order. Want to do roll call, but
Brian Venema,
here.
Christine Cobb. Here. Monica McHugh. Here. Emerita Keith. Here. Sandra Gerlach. Here. Tom Stewart.
Yes.
Mike Burke.
Here. So we'll have the approval of the minutes from the August the 18th meeting.
I'll move to approve.
For a second,
I'll second.
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Do we have anything from the public? Do we have anybody on at all? You're not? Oh. I don't have the agenda.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's a page 2. Before the minute. Oh, what it is.
Approval of the, as for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to go through the agenda.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We don't have anybody from the public speak, right? We got go right to the zoning ordinance with Laura.
So do you need to do a motion to open it as a public?
I think we do, yeah.
Should we do that?
I'll move that we open the hearing to a public hearing.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, wow. So we're so glad we were able to give you a break on September. You have done a wonderful job getting us to this point, along with the wind energy ordinance. I don't know how you did it. I'm not so crazy, so my hands on the table.
Just says
So,
it.
Yeah.
okay.
And we do
Sounds
that.
like, yeah, yes, and even more helpful is you're here, so
And thank you for your help.
Yes.
Most, thank you.
welcome. So what I put together here is a update in a PowerPoint format so that we can kind of walk through this at any point. We can delve into the details. And kind of get this so when it was up on our website, people could get a general idea of what might be happening here. So this is actually a case for the commission. It's a text amendment in which you're amending the entire ordinance. You're giving it an update. And the reasons we're doing that are these 3 bullets that are here. We want to make sure it's compatible with the county's vision, goals, and objectives. We want to make sure it is in sync with Iowa code and the Iowa Administrative Code. And we also, I'm happy to say it's based on research and input from county staff, this commission, and the Board of Adjustment, from residents in Jackson County and other interested people that we contacted. So I'll do this presentation, can take public input. And then we have to set up some rules for public input, and I think it's the last slide, right? So for just to remind folks, what is that zoning ordinance? It's about organizing and managing your land use patterns. It's really designed in Jackson County to also protect land for agriculture. So we have the zoning districts that you know about. They are a way we organize property in those areas, what can go there, what kinds of buildings there can be, what kinds of setbacks there need to be from property lines, and depending on the uses, parking and signs. Iowa code exempts farmland, which includes farmhouses, farm buildings, and a plethora of things that we have included in the definition by referencing half a dozen sections of Iowa code. However, there are still reasons why we need to help our folks with improvements on their farms. If there's anything going in a floodplain, the floodplain management ordinance, is used, and then so is the zoning ordinance. The ordinance also has two parts. One gets a lot of attention, which is the text that we've been updating, but there's also an official zone. So I'm sure you can probably add to this list, but these are a few things that Beck and I have found over and with Forest help over the course of updating. Our current ordinance is loosely organized. It's difficult to understand. Our customers and their attorneys can't understand it, and we have difficulty as well. It's inconsistent. There's gaps. The tables are confusing at best and out of whack at worst. There's no illustrations to help understand any of the regulations. One of the big things we also identified was we have subdivisions that were created before zoning, and we don't really do much to accommodate them. And we also have some conflicts with Iowa code because the law has changed since this ordinance was adopted. So the goals are, we want this to be user friendly. We want it to be in a better organized format. We wanted to address concerns that have come up over time for the uses and regulations. We want to add a lot of graphics and tables. We added more definitions so people understand what we're talking about. And we created those regulations for those older subdivisions and referenced Iowa code, so we're really tightening up this ordinance and a much better tool for everyone. So just to go back over a few other things, the land use policy, which was adopted, I think, adopted in 2022, talks about goals for quality of life, and natural and cultural resources, making sure there's a adequate and desirable level of facilities and services, and really is looking for compact development in our cities or along highways in keeping with preservation of agricultural land. So the comprehensive plan that you worked on and adopted in 2024 references that land use policy, also acknowledges that the county needs to work with the cities to coordinate, help them coordinate for their best development, preserve and protect viable land for agriculture, but also preserve and protect our parks, our open spaces, and the natural and cultural resources of Jackson County. In terms of how we organize the update, we now have 6 chapters instead of 3. We have separate chapters for the Board of Adjustment. The Zoning Commission has their own chapter. We also have divided out the district regulations from administration and enforcement, and the definitions are separated as well. The general provisions are basically to provide context for the ordinance itself. So that was part of the update, but we also try to use it to kind of explain the overall purpose and format of the ordinance. In addition, this is where we begin to use references to Jackson County codes and Iowa codes, so that the ordinance can stay current as those are amended over time. And our friends in the official zoning map that we don't really spend a lot of time with, but Becca does. So this is the online version, and the area in white is the A1 zone. And so you can see a tremendous amount of the county is in that agricultural A1 zone. And so that's why we spent the most time on that district than any of the others, trying to make sure we had it right with this purpose. So chapter 2 has a section that now becomes a step-by-step review for moving through any inquiry, and it's set up so that you can, as the administrator, explain, or as a attorney or any kind of agent for an applicant, help them understand the ordinance, because we've provided this extended chapter 2 or section 2.1 with information about the districts. So we have a lot of tables in here, a lot of illustrations. The other thing we did was we had the concept of bigger general use categories that they would encompass a list of uses. For example, general retail encompasses all sorts of businesses that were individually listed. This is a good way to let the ordinance be flexible as things change over time. In my lifetime, I had to write in certain businesses that now don't even exist because of technology. So this avoids that. This makes it much easier for the administrator to help somebody get to yes with their project. Other big change was Lori really debated on this, but finally decided we really should name our special exceptions conditional uses. This is a trend that cities and counties are using, and it really, I think, better reflects that they are subject to conditions before they can be granted a permit. We also created matrices of uses and structures organized by the zoning district and parking regulations. This is a way that it keeps the zoning administrator saying when somebody says, what districts can I put my XYZ business in there? Look it up. What's my parking? Look it up. So the other thing we did related to parking and development was we moved everything into one place. We pulled things out of other sections and even the definitions. And we kept some things that we were thinking might go over in the subdivision ordinance. That was the area and width requirements for flag lots. Flag lots aren't even listed in the subdivision ordinance, so we just moved it in here with everything else. And again, we're striving for that consistency. I will include a lot of references. And I'm adding illustrations. So the zoning ordinance, we had a template for the outline for the whole ordinance, but also that one for our districts. And so this template came about as we began to look at pulling out the temporary uses into their own, putting extended development regulations in, referencing signs and parking somewhere else, but having them as part of that template. We didn't change any of the district names, so they're all the same, but they're now in this new template. I mentioned those general land use categories. The one that came about as I was working through the conditional use permits was a batch plan. Becca and I were on a call trying to figure out why we could allow concrete batch plants and not asphalt batch plants when we were already allowing asphalt batch plants and had been. So let's just call them batch plants, asphalt, concrete, whatever else might be coming in the future. And they really act the same. They're a big business, they're a big building and an operation, and it doesn't matter if they're making asphalt or concrete in the end, they're just a batch plant. So that is something you didn't talk about, but it was driving us crazy that it wasn't there. So we would really appreciate having it there. And so that's an example of some of these other ones are the same. They're just larger groupings. So it's not so much a finicky list and you can't get somebody's new idea to fit. The other thing I was really happy we were able to do with Lori and Becca was we were adding uses that support the comprehensive plan, like adult and child care. We expand uses that accommodate new things that you've worked on, the wind energy conversion, the data processing that's come forward, but also some other areas where there are existing uses or they're required by Iowa code, like logging businesses that are referenced or family homes that are required to be treated as single family homes under the code. So I think that also is good that we were able to add those new categories to stay in line with the comprehensive plan and with Iowa code. So something we did for all the districts was each one of them references land use policy, not just the A1. They also reference county codes and Iowa codes. Many of the tables will refer to other ordinances, and when we can get a hyperlink in there, people can move about this online ordinance pretty easily. We already talked about conditional uses replace special exceptions. Temporary uses were pulled out to their own section, and these are now staff approval as opposed to the Board of Adjustment. The development regulations were revised extensively, as in we added them for just about everything that wasn't a principal use. Because you have to figure out setbacks for accessory uses and conditional uses and temporary uses. So that is done. And then we also had good input from our county health administrator and our county engineer, and they have included some suggestions for our development regulations. You see that. I already mentioned we consolidated parking and signs. We also consolidate conditional uses all in one section to avoid repetition. And then big plus for folks, Becca's got a lineup of people waiting for this. Alternative regulations for the older subdivisions in A1 and R1. Section 2.8, we kept a lot of the information there. We decided that looking at the visibility at intersections, we actually had regulations that didn't really reflect reality, and the county engineer is already in charge of that, so we referenced their policy, and they were fine with that. We have a new item that we haven't talked about. I'm going to come back to it on burial sites. The accessory dwelling units and the home-based businesses were strictly Iowa code updates, and we worked those out. And then we spent some time on fences in our last meeting. This is really about guidance. You have one line, one or two sentences in your code now about fences, and there's not really any guidance. So I'll pause and go back to should we go back? Oh, is this the burial site? Oh, perfect. So Becca and I tagged this, and really Becca came up with the regulations. She used the policy that was adopted by the county board in 1999 for the protection of burial sites and now identification of potential mound areas as the basis for this, and then worked with the Office of the State Archaeologist to come up with this new section. So this is brand new. We did not have a chance to review this with you at your previous hearing because we were still working on it. In the blue box are the Iowa code sections that refer to burial sites. And the last bullet there is the county resolution number and the two major points of what it does. So what we had is we had state law telling us what we couldn't do. We had a county resolution saying we need to help people, but then we really didn't have a process. So Becca, working with the state, came up with this screening process for development permits for the floodplain, for subdivisions, for conditional uses, and then rezonings would be reviewed against an official mound potential map, which we've had since 1999, but it's not really, this is kind of a stepchild that got ignored or orphaned. So that map tells us on a section basis where there might be ponds. And that is what the Office of State Archaeologist also uses on their island maps as a section. The reason is that burial sites are not allowed to be made public information. And so to be in line with that state code, we're using this section as the way to find it. One of the things we have been able to do, though, is with the help of our GIS folks, is we've actually been able to try and even fine tune that, but that layer can't be released to the public. The Office of State Archaeologist says Becker can use it, maybe some other staff can use it, but for the public purpose, a person's project, if it shows up for, let's just take a subdivision because we have this happening. A subdivision shows up, it's in this potential bound area. So what we do is, as the administrator, Becca will say, according to our map, there's a potential that you could have burial mounds on your site. There are laws about what happens if you find burial sites, what you can and cannot do. This is what they are. We have a person or an office at the Office of State Archaeologist specifically work with us on this. They will be your guide through the Office of State Archaeologist on what you need to do. Becca also would notify if there's any other county staff that might be involved, notify the County Historic Preservation Commission, is they're part of that resolution from 1999, and then document that the notice was given. The idea here is that we have a process, we tell someone what we have found, but we are not the authority. Office of the State Archaeologist, they may not know. It may actually mean somebody has to come out who is a trained archaeologist and review the site. But what we have added here is the process that's been missing since 1999. We had laws that said you had to do it, we had a resolution that said we'd help, and now we have a proposed process that would let us get this accomplished.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Do we have burial mounds in the county that have been identified?
Well, I know that there are known archaeological sites. I'm not sure which ones are mounds or not. My guess is it's likely that we do. But
But
there are
you wouldn't-
known sites.
Landowners aren't informed. I mean, you might have something that they suspect is a burial mound on your place, but they wouldn't tell you.
If you work with the Office of the State Archaeologist, I think there's a way to do that if you're the property owner. Do you remember? when-
But it isn't a matter of course.
What we don't want it, what we can't do is we can't put it into a staff report or hand it out to anyone else.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got, I mean, we say there that where there's a potential mound, they notify the applicant.
Right.
So is the applicant gonna stay quiet about that? Probably not. If one's found. So,
We hope not, because there's criminal penalties. That's the thing
Okay.
here. This isn't a civil violation. These are criminal penalties if you disturb burial.
No, but
sites, so
no, I know
so we want
that,
to
but.
make sure they know that.
But, I mean, the state and the county are not allowed to release it to the public. But the landowner can release it to the public.
I don't think so. I think these laws, the laws apply everyone.
Is this just to keep people from interfering on the site?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you do that if you're gonna sell your property? You have disclosures that have to be.
Yeah.
You might not ever even know it's there if you don't go digging. I mean,
This-
they-
I know, somebody
Yeah.
goes
digging on your land, but you don't know it's
So-
on your-
so-
that's a criminal penalty.
So the answer here is,
Here,
that's why everything goes to the Office of State Archaeologist.
what I go
Becca
back
doesn't know the
here,
answer, I don't know the answer, but they know the answer.
because it says notify the applicant of their obligations under the law. So the state has obviously told them that, hey, there's a burial mound here.
No.
Possibly.
Here's the state laws. In the blue
Potentially.
box, they have this Office of State Archaeologist said, these are the 4 laws that constitute Iowa burial laws that we think you need to make sure people know where they are and they can read them.
Right, but if you've got a project where you think that there could be something.
Yep.
And you disturb it, or if, you come across it by accident, because that's how most of them are found. The state comes in, says, yes, this is a burial mound, they notify the applicant. But if that applicant goes to sell the property, there has to be a real estate disclosure.
And that's not up to us.
No,
That's
I know
not-
that,
We,
but,
the good news is we don't have to we do not
Yeah,
have to deal with that.
right,
The way I understand it, and I don't remember where I heard it years ago, is there are mounds that have been identified, but they're all over by the river, you know,
Which
floating.
makes sense.
Yeah, which makes sense,
Yeah.
right? And, but there are sites that are potential, you know, that if,
Yes.
you know, that they would, that like you were saying, if something's gonna happen, then they'll come out, they'll inspect just in case. But yes, there are sites that have been identified.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the city archaeologist office can tell that property owner where they are. I think they can do that. We can't tell them where they are.
no, and no,
And
the state
in most
can't.
cases, we don't know where they are.
Mhm.
So the idea here was that we are carrying out the county policy in that resolution. We're providing a screening process that gets people information that there could be something there. And it gets them to the right state office to find out what is there, what could be there, how do they deal with it, how do they figure it out? And it does not require any of us to become archaeology
Yeah.
experts. Or, but it's very important because the last two bullets deal with criminal penalties. I don't want any of our applicants to be facing criminal penalties. And neither did Becca, so we're trying to, this is a way for us to try to make sure that they understand that this is what the code is saying, and here's people who can help you.
So that first bullet point under where mountain potential is indicated. So they have a permit, they're getting ready in their break ground or whatever. If that's when they discover something, are the obligations spelled out somewhere, or they just spelled out in state law?
The obligations are in those Iowa codes, so
So they have to go look at,
yeah, just
Okay.
like we've referenced all the other Iowa codes sections,
okay,
we're referencing them because if we list them and then they change, that's where we
Right.
got into trouble.
yeah.
Right.
And with other things. So the idea is that
Go check before you break ground.
I did skip a really key part. Becca has looked at, if you look at the very first bullet in the green section, all of these permits shall include a review of the official mound potential map. I missed this part. As part of the pre-application checklist. So this isn't just the conference, the pre-application conference, it's on the checklist, the pre-application checklist for these 4 items that Becca's identified. And then she's also going to, when she gets permits, so kind of the way to think about this, these 4 are usually ones where it's somebody who's in business or doing a subdivision. And the zoning departments tend to be little ordinary people. Well, not little, but you know what I mean. They're not that they're little people. They're the ordinary homeowner, and they're not building a subdivision or creating a business. They're just adding a deck. So she's gonna work with them as they're going along. So a little more like she was telling you about what she did for people who come in and don't know how to use the computer or need some help. So I think we've struck a good balance here. She's got these projects where before they're getting their permit, before they're putting their shovel in the ground, like you said, Christine, there was a checklist a month ahead of time, whatever. Oh yeah, I did check that, everything is okay, so I can keep going. I don't know if you want to add anything to this, you have big kind of breaking this.
Yeah, very interesting.
But this is also a time management issue for Becca. So she structured this as knowing what her workload is going to be. So making sure these bigger projects get something on the checklist before they get started, but then also being sure to check on the smaller projects as they come in. And work through that, kind of more of a holding the hand of the applicant through the process, balancing out the differences in that you can have with the customer sometimes. Some more familiar, some less familiar with how to do things.
Yeah, and timing and coordination, that's a big thing since we're coordinating with the Office of the State Archaeologist. Our contact there, she's also a professor, so she only has so much time that she can be out in the field. So she can only go inspect some of these potential areas every now and then.
Any other questions on this one? Section 2.9, the application of district regulations was really short, but it's not anymore. Because, Becca and Larry thought it would be better to put all the sign regulations together, to add a lot more illustrations and definitions and tables, and we did that. We also decided we do that with the conditional uses and structures because those conditions were repetitious. And sometimes what that meant is it would say something in one district and not quite the same in another, so now we can be a little more consistent. One of the things we talked about when we did look at signs was increasing the sign area from 100 to 200 square feet. The commission was in favor of that for the commercial and industrial districts. And we want to make sure we point that out to the board supervisors.
Hey, isn't that sign the one up there at Otter Creek?
Yes. It was,
I learned that when we were.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
That stuck with me.
it is. So this was an illustration of how to calculate sign height and area. It was perfect because it was an actual sign. The dimensions are all on there correctly. And all you had before was sign height. How high is the sign from the ground?
And these
think that was
measurements
your-
came from the application that they filled out, so
Yeah,
that
But
made it.
your, but your current ordinance says, I don't even think it has a definition for sign. I mean, some of these things epitomize why we're getting something. So yes, a real life sign. It's out there working.
In Jackson County.
In Jackson County. Section 210 nonconformities, we did, more updating than changing. There were a lot of good things in this. What we tried to do is, structure it a little easier, organize it a little more for, easier interpretation, a little more explanation, making sure we're consistent. Trying to give some more guidance for things that come up, repairs, alterations. Oh, I gotta reconstruct this. I'm not gonna do this anymore. What happens? I want to convert it to something else. All these things. And it's to update it, make it a little easier to understand. Chapter 3, we had some really good, really good discussions on some really nice ways for us to make sure we're doing a better job and coordinating and getting input so that things go smoothly and nobody's getting what do you mean I can't get my permit because of this situation? So updating that, we will coordinate with the interagency within the county government, but also it may include the state, like the DNR complaint or something like that. And also trying to do this on a pre-application conference because we don't want people to find out about these things too far into the process that now they have a delay. It can cost more, it can take longer, it just keeps adding cost that way. And so we really don't want to do that. We want to figure things out at the beginning. The administrative waiver is a way for the zoning administrator to allow for tweaking setbacks, not quite as far as the Board of Adjustment would allow through their public hearing process. But this has a set of criteria and a process, if you remember, that involves the neighbors in agreement. The idea was we're taking cases off the Board of Adjustments workload and still fostering property improvements. And then temporary use of permits, this was another idea of letting the zoning administrator handle these, speeds up the process. And again, reduces caseload for the Board of Adjustment. Speaking of the Board of Adjustment. Their three powers and duties are to review appeals, review special exceptions, and review variances. And for our updates, we've renamed the special exceptions to conditional uses. Iowa code created a new kind of variance, a dimensional variance, that's been added. And this, all these problems come up for Becca and they're just so timely.
Yeah.
She said, what do I do about a conditional use permit extension? And I said, I have no idea. You're right, there's nothing in the ordinance. So we worked through a process, and the Board of Adjustments reviewed this.
Mhm.
And what this does is if it's something that is it's a new project, it's controversial, it's unchanged, for there's something major, but you gotta do a public hearing, which is our current process by default. But if it's something it's not a big deal, I had a 18-month delay in getting the materials I needed because they're special order and there was supply chain problems. Well, okay, that doesn't really need a neighborhood meeting, just let the neighbors know, hey, they got their siding in, they're now gonna be siding and finishing this project, that sort of thing. Right, those are kind of some of the cases.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then zoning commission has their own chapter. Yay. For all your hard work. So these are all the things you're doing without any rules or regulations to help you. And so this chapter really tries to give that kind of setting for not only for commissioners who are on the commission, but anyone who is thinking about being on it or wants to understand their role when they bring their projects forward.
Back, it's a trend.
Hotel California.
Chapter 6, we've added over 200 definitions and cross references. Whenever possible, we've added references to the Iowa Code and Administrative Code. I am in awe of how many things are defined by Iowa Code. Lots of things. So, but the idea is thanks to
Yeah,
that things can stay up to date.
it's not the administrative code, it's administrative rules.
I've seen it both ways and I've seen it abbreviated IAC.
It's always been administrative rules.
Except for when it says an Iowa Administrative Code. Half the state websites.
Really?
Use, oh, yes, oh, yeah. Cause I've been back and forth, because I was like, is this another thing? What?
It's like they need to go through theirs because when I was at DOT, it was very clear that the code was the law that the legislators wrote.
It is, it
The
is,
administrative rules were how you interpret
Yeah.
the code.
but now they use the acronym Iowa Administrative Code, IAC.
But it's not law. Or some of it is
No,
and some of
it's
it's
not.
not.
Administrative rules are not
Not
law.
law, no, I know.
No, it's not law.
What are they lumping it all in together now?
Well,
Laws as well as.
Well, what we're doing is,
They
here's
should.
what we do. The rules tell you how to implement the law.
Right,
Right.
So we are telling the applicants, this is subject to Iowa Code 335. And I'm making this up, I have no idea if this is right. And Iowa Administrative Code 6237-22 tells you how to implement it. Examples of Iowa Administrative Code in our definitions are child care center, child development home, family home. There's a bunch of them within some industrial commercial processes that we also have these referenced in our conditional use permits because we had setbacks from churches and schools and parks. And in administrative rules for certain industrial uses, those distances are set out. They may not be in the code, they may be in the Iowa administrative code. So I was a little confused, but I kept seeing that IAC reference in Iowa administrative code. So that's what I've been using. And what this means is that if those rules change, just like if that code changes, our ordinance stays up to date. And there's also, there are ways for Becca to say, am I supposed to be doing something that they're not doing, or maybe I can help them out, what they're supposed to be doing, and see if those are in there to help. But in my 30 years working with them, they used to be the rules, but now that shows up here and there,
That's,
and this IAC shows up a lot.
yeah, it's on the Iowa legislature site. Mary just pulled it up, but yeah.
Yeah.
When I was at the DOT helping to write those rules, it was never code, it was always rules.
Yes, it is a little. And I agree, it's different, because I made the same transition of what I was looking up.
Yeah.
So that's what I was using, IAC. Oh, and I think we talked about some of these other things on chapter 6. Okay, so how do we get through this? You have your public hearing, which is now. You have the opportunity to vote on the update, which can you approve it with conditions, or deny it. Please don't take 3. You have choice 3. And then your recommendation goes to the Board of Supervisors, and they'll set a public hearing date, and then their process is very similar. They set their date, they hold their hearing, they vote on the update, and then whatever is adopted goes into effect in accordance with Iowa law. That's the general process. So there's this hearing, and then one more at the supervisors, which could take 3 meetings if they choose to do that.
But we can vote tonight on it though.
You are not subject to that. 3 hearings.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can.
My phone was.
Right. It's on here. So then,
Oh, yeah.
we weren't sure how many people we would have, or who might come in, or how they might come in. So we put together information on the public input process. How we can take comments in writing, oral comments, Zoom questions and comments. But making sure that they're still at the quorum of being recognized by the chair, stating your name and address for the record, and then proceed with questions and comments. And then the last bullet again is the choices you have for your recommendation. It looks like we have someone on.
We do have someone. RJ Rowe, do you have any comments?
No, Becca, I'm good. I'm just listening. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Commission comments, concerns?
Nothing outside, entertain a motion to close the public hearing. That's right.
And we close the public hearing?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I guess our next business would be to decide if what we're gonna do with all this work that Laura's done.
Well, Matt, Laura. Yeah.
And back, I have,
Oh.
all of us have done. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Laura. You're welcome. That's awesome.
Well,
We got a motion or?
I don't know if this is worded correctly or not, but I would move that we approve this, what do I call it, draft or
Ordinance.
ordinance,
Yeah.
and send it on to the supervisors.
It is a draft and it is an ordinance.
So I'm both ready.
Those terms are correct.
Okay,
I will second that.
You see, we got any discussion on that? If not, we'll, vote by, you want to do roll call probably?
Sure. Brian Benema,
yes.
Christine Fabb,
Yes.
Monica McHugh,
Yes.
Emerita Key. Yes. Sandra Gerlach,
Yes.
Tom Stewart,
Yes.
Mike Burke,
Yes.
Yeah.
We're thinking,
I don't have to come back. She might.
We haven't.
Yay,
done that
good job,
yet.
good job.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did, but not on this. end.
Not on this.
So I think the next thing on our agenda is items, anything from the commission at all, other business? Not, the next item is items from the staff for upcoming meetings or stated business.
No, and thank you. My thanks for the new ordinance. And next meeting, November 17th at 6 p.m.
6, yeah. I said that to Linda on the way out, you know, so. What do you have in mind for next one?
We will have a rezoning and data center ordinance work,
Okay,
So work session.
a work session. We will have a work session.
I won't be here in person, but I will attempt to call in.
Great.
Any other new business? And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also,
I'll
Second.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Where's your?
that's bump
Chris.
down.
No kidding.
thank you, Randy.
That's what I learned.
And
No, normally, no.
And if you-
Out of here.
It